Look at the save button.
You gotta do the thing.
You gotta do the thing
You
first.
gotta do the
really
thing
helps,
first.
You gotta do that one thing.
You gotta do that one thing.
No, you're almost there.
Up,
Left. Make a Louis, make a Louis.
Never done a power
Up, boom, boom. There you go.
Boom.
Hey.
We're talking about.
Hey, you
Go
should try
back.
it. You should try to move it just to make sure. Test it out. Test it out.
Test the waters a little bit.
the water.
Oh, we already saw what's happening.
Uh-oh.
Alright.
Right, you ready?
It's
Gonna
ruined.
write that on the page you can.
You ready?
Yeah.
Not very.
Okay.
Go.
So when it comes to disease and illness, travel policies are second to none. In the past decade, there have been many pandemics and epidemics that have killed thousands in many nations. There have been two epidemics that happened in the last decade: swine flu and the Ebola virus. The lax travel regulations have caused many deaths from these diseases. With better travel regulations, these deaths wouldn't have happened. Ebola entered the U.S. due to these lax travel regulations, like I just said. But this is not the first time that disease has spread from an overseas nation to another. The Spanish flu in World War I, they call it the Spanish flu of 1918, had a higher death toll than the war itself, and, according to historians, more deaths than the Black Death, or what they call the bubonic plague. There have been many updates within the travel regulations and policies, but still, H1N1, swine flu, and Ebola virus still spread to the U.S. We need more updates to the search procedures and regulations during the times of illness. Okay, so the problem is the fast spread of the disease throughout the nations. And because of these lax travel regulations, there's been many deaths. Get back to, okay, thank you for working. There we go, okay. So, the Spanish flu, there's an estimated 21 million deaths worldwide. And out of all those deaths, 675,000 of them were from the U.S. alone, according to the Credo summary article, Influenza Epidemic of 1918 to 1919. And however, even with the this is in the past, but even with the advanced medicines and treatments, there are still epidemics and pandemics today. In the past 10 years, as I said earlier, two diseases, the H1N1 virus and the Ebola virus, have spread through countries causing panic. The H1N1 virus, swine flu, usually circulates between pig populations. However, in 2009, it became a pandemic. According to Bahar Golapur from Life Science, the death toll could have been 10 times higher than we originally thought, putting it at 203,000 worldwide. Also, another dangerous disease, deadly disease, was the Ebola outbreak in 2014 in Liberia. It became one of the most deadly diseases because 59 out of the first 86 who contacted it died. And so far, through February 28th, okay, there have been 9,729 deaths worldwide. However, all of these deaths could have been prevented. So, one of my solutions is only military transport should be allowed during times of pandemic and epidemic. So only doctors and needs and necessities for the poor and unfortunate third world countries can be traveled back and forth, and there's no commercial airline flights. The reason for that is when the disease spread to the U.S., the Liberian native Eric Duncan brought Ebola into the U.S. When he died, he also affected many other, according to BBC News. Another change is we need to make our policies and regulations much more strict and efficient during disease. Sorry, this is just showing where they all started and stuff. avoid the disease. Okay, so according to Creo, 1 million people travel from high to low income nations. And that way, air travel is the fastest way to spread disease. One example is the SARS virus, which started in November 2002. And by 2003, over 8,000 people were infected worldwide, which shows the lack of screening that we had. The last policy change, so this is just sticking. Last policy change is that flights that do travel during this time should be completely sanitized. And if there's any sign of pathogens within the plane, the flight needs to be canceled. According to a survey done in 1997, out of all the U.S. airports, they took 40 samples, and 40 of them were pumped of fuel from the international flights, and 19 of the samples contained viruses and pathogens. I mean, it might not seem like a lot because it was a small sample, but if we took a much larger sample, there'd be much more disease and pathogens that would be found. So, if we're talking about helping the world and helping our nation, our travel policies and regulations need to be updated and regulated so we can feel safer. The better policies could prevent the large number of casualties. Just remember this, without tighter regulations, you or your loved ones might end up being the ones who suffer. Thank you.
Got everybody? 6:30.
That's everybody.
Is that everybody?
Thanks, Rose. I think you did a good job of
Yeah, you have to point it like.
clear,
what's
concise,
that?
central claim,
Yeah.
tests for inferences that well.